welcome to the Ski Racing Podcast Extra with me, Ed Drake. Joining me is Tord Nilsson, ski expert, as we take a look at the winning performance from the opening World Cup of the 2020-2021 season. Marta Bassino picked up her second victory of her career and her first of this campaign.
Absolutely. It was great to get the racing started, wasn't it, Ed? Even without the crowds, what did you make of it? And how do you think they felt without the crowds there?
I'm just pleased we're back racing again. I mean, there could be 1,000 people there, there could be 100,000 people there, and for me as a ski racing fan, I'm just pleased we're back on, and fingers crossed we get a load of racing this season.
Absolutely. Right, let's drill down to the ladies, the podium. Obviously in third, Petra Blahova. First run, over 2 seconds behind first place. Smashed it second run.
Yeah, she found herself down in 10th after the first run. Early bib number 3. You expected her to come out firing. You know, she's a strong lady, she's aggressive, and she's one of the best giant slalom skiers on the Women's World Cup. But it just took her a little bit of time to find her feet down that incredibly tough race piste. But yeah, second run, she knew exactly what she needed to do. She had to try and make up as much time as possible. Managed to find 3/4 of a second, but that was all she could find, so she got third.
Yeah, and total opposite, second, Brigarini coming in. Consistency was the key for her, right?
Yeah, so she was second after the first run, finished second in the end. She put a bit more pressure on our eventual winner in the second run, able to get a little bit closer with the time, but she was just so consistent. Yeah. As she was last season, from the beginning of the season to the end, she picks up points. She doesn't seem to have a very wild side to her ski racing, and that is just going to serve her so well over the rest of the winter.
Absolutely, it's got to bode well for the whole season.
Absolutely.
And then the winner, I mean, Bassino. Honestly, that first race, I think you mentioned on the podcast that the start number was really important there. Elaborate on that. How important is that early start?
Well, typically in Solden it's really important because it's so icy, because it's so steep up on that glacier, that actually the start number is hugely important. And I was thinking about that in the first run. She went down bib 2, she took the lead, she was super consistent, no errors, really
beautiful
smooth.
Skiing.
Yeah, really nice. And so my thought between runs was, now let's see how she tackles the second run, going down 30th, all the pressure. You know, she's got her maiden World Cup victory out of the way last season, so let's see how she did. And she absolutely held her nerve, so smooth and calm still, and she managed to knife turns even through judder ruts.
Absolutely, and won by 0.14.
Yeah, just the tiniest of margins. Yeah, held it all the way to the finish.
Unbelievable. Right, so we're going to deep dive into her winning run right now with a bit more of the deep analysis.
Yeah, let's go. And here we go. Here's Bassino's second run. So no hint of nerves as she pushes out the start gate, straight down into that tuck. Just have a look at these opening turns, how clean they are. That hip just pushing up and through, allowing her to start right on the front of those skis. Look at that shin angle. Nice and forward. Hips, shoulders. You can see just working to try and get right to the front of those skis. And she's coming through these opening few. Absolutely on fire, pressing all the while at the top of the turn, trying to increase the speed. This is the important part to set up over this roll. This caught a few athletes out, so she just comes around from behind, gets nice early pressure. So what she's trying to do is get this turn done above the gate, so that when she comes around here, she's got good pressure right at the start of the turn, and she's got plenty of time, so she's not rushing to get on. So you can see through here, she comes in, nice quality separation. Look at that lateral separation, shins across, upper body upright, allows her to get loads of pressure over the outside ski on this fall away turn. She chucks the skis sideways a couple of times across here, just as a way to break some of the speed and slow herself down a little bit before that outside ski then just comes on and arcs away through the rest of the turn. Just watch as she comes through here, couple of turns on the side, and then bang, there. Edge pressure slightly to the inside, but doesn't release the pressure over the outside ski there, and then carries on with the charge. This is the time where she gets a couple of seconds to have a breather. Little mistake there, but it's right at the top before she rolls over onto the steep, so it wouldn't have cost her too much. And then down onto this incredibly difficult steep. You can see how early she's able to get the pressure on the skis. Just watch. So yeah, a lot of sideways at the top, but then when she goes for pressure, you can see it. That ski then just goes bang in there and arcs it out. So this is a lovely shot now from the top here. She comes round this upper turn, trying to get a lot of the turn done above the gate, having to cut it off slightly because it's so steep. But then when she does go for pressure, that separation is her key to getting this arc at the end of the turn. Very important now. Next section is the crucial part. That execution from the steep to the flat. Loses the outside ski there slightly, but really doesn't panic as she comes through that next intermediate, and she's managing to hang on to that advantage. Comes off the steep onto the flat. This is the most important part now, this transition from the steep to the flat, because this bottom section, as you can see here, is so flat that any mistake is just super highlighted. So here she is off the steep. This is the one time where she would have had her real heart in the mouth. She comes round here and just starts to weight that inside ski. Looks all good here, but just keep an eye on the outside ski, the direction it goes, and watch that snow kick up off the inside ski as we move this on just slightly, just there. So that outside ski starts to deviate, the inside ski pressure comes on. This ski's starting to go this way. If you watch carefully through the next couple of frames, the outside ski just comes away from the right direction, just here, and it starts to track, bouncing around, losing a bit of pressure there, but thankfully for her, has the strength and the power to get back up onto that inside ski, and costs her a bit of time, but it isn't something that affects her too much. She loses a few kilometres an hour, and that's why she goes from 0.6 to crossing the line with only a 0.14 advantage. But what a day in the office for Marta Bassino.
So on to the men's race, where the men's top 14 were within a second of the leader going into the second run. Unbelievably exciting. We all loved it. Ed?
So good. That race was mega. Super tight, top 14 under a second, 1.06 to 15th, and it was nothing but excitement. Anybody could win that second run, pretty much. I think it was 2.3 or something like that to the 30. So it was properly good.
Exactly
Gino,
how we wanted to start the season, right?
Couldn't have gone better.
Yeah.
Gino Cavietzel, who was leading the first run, ended up third on the day. A bit of mixed emotions about that. The pressure, looking for his first World Cup win, first podium, but he managed to hold it together and pick up that all-important final step on the podium.
Absolutely. Odermatt coming in second, went from 7th to second, obviously it being a very tight field.
Yeah, it sounds really good, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does sound really good. Yeah. But I mean, it was, he was 0.3 off the leader after the first run. So, putting into context, a bit different.
Yeah, so he just, as you can imagine, and as you see so often from the young guys, just absolutely putting it all on the line, and he risked loads on that second run. A really fiery run, moving up from 7th to second, and deposing Pintero into off the podium, which is a bit of a shame for him, but the young guns absolutely brought it, and then...
well, what more can we say?
Exactly.
I mean, the man of the moment, 20 years old.
Yeah.
First race, why not win it, right?
Yeah, exactly. He talked about it in the build-up that he was really confident, like he was thinking that he could get his first World Cup win this season, but he goes straight in at the first run, doesn't bother with second or third, straight to the top. He was absolutely fearless. He went from 5th to 1st. That was just a mega day, super emotional day for the guy, young, and he is here to stay, and he's put down a marker already.
Yeah, and like I said, what a day for him. We're going to deep dive into his winning run, so let's go ahead and do that.
Let's go. And here is that winning run from the youngster. Bib 13, lucky for him for his first race. Again, he knew what he had to do, he had to try and make up only a few tenths, but he absolutely went out to the gate with a point to prove. This is that in turn. We saw this actually from a lot of the guys making this big error. Again, similar to the ladies, where this section was super important. Really strong over the right foot. You can see him in the back seat, but he doesn't panic, and he still somehow is managing to get over onto the front of that ski through this banana gate. It got a little rutted, it got a little bumpy. You can see that outside ski struggling for grip, but look how far that chest is down the hill. He's pointing down towards the apex of the next turn. The skis are coming across underneath him. And again, another one that just has to little bit of a redirect with the ski before going to the power. Just watch how this plays out as we follow this through. Gets that ski so far across the hill, but look how tall his hip is. A tall hip is crucial to then making sure that you've got pressure right at the top of the tip. I know we're going sideways here, but the fact that we are going sideways with a tall hip, when he wants to get that arc down, it will come in, and it will come in with some power. Just watch here. Sliding, 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 looking for pressure, bang, arcing it on, bit of spray coming off, loses that outside slightly, but again, no panic, fixes that upper body, looks for that separation, and rolls through onto this mini flat as we come across. Working really hard, 700 to the top, finds himself over a quarter of a second in the green, over now onto the steep pitch. So we talk a lot about arcing and clean arcs, but when you're up on this sort of gradient, it just isn't possible. And so what you see a lot of the racers do, and we saw it with varying degrees of success actually, is this again, across the hill. Normally, we're always talking about clean arcs, and what we want to see is it coming around here, being nice and smooth on the top of here, with a lot of clean pressure up here, building the speed. But because it's so steep, that just isn't possible. So what the racers are trying to do is get across, control the speed, and make sure that when they are ready to arc, the skis are pointing exactly where they want it to be. And you can only really do that with a high hip at the start of the turn. It finishes with a low hip. His skis come across underneath him, and that outside ski and the outside hip is super high. But this bird's eye shot just shows you at the top of the turn these little feathering actions before power. Feather, power, feather, power. And into the back seat slightly. But again, the fact is that he's not panicking. A young guy all on the line, pushing incredibly hard, and that's what he's looking for. Nice and smooth, little bit of a redirect, but then again, look at that separation, look at that power. This is an injected race piece that allows the ski to come up underneath him. He gets pushed a little bit low again, but that power, that strength from the 20-year-old is something else. Another couple of tenths found. That was his only mistake in that whole run, and all it was is just, again, that moving slightly away. Watch as that outside ski tracks the wrong direction, but the fact that he's got all that core strength just means that outside ski bites really nicely in the end. And he comes up here, just straightens up the line. Could have cost him, but actually a little mistake on the end of the steep meant that he was going slightly slower in the transition, so that he really did nail this section here and took all the speed that he possibly could without having to be low down here. We saw a couple of racers get dragged out into the softer stuff because they didn't make that error up above. I'm not saying by any means the mistake was planned, but he took advantage out of a bad situation. And again, works the skis really nicely, staying low, hungry, out of the wind, so smooth, so calm. And what a day it was for Lucas Braathen. Maiden World Cup victory in the bag.
So Ed, that was great, thanks for that. I mean, let's hope for the same kind of racing in a month's time, right?
Yeah, I know. The only issue is it is a month away. I'm really annoyed that we're having to wait a month, but so be it. We're going to get some racing.
Absolutely, and that's the main thing, right?
Exactly, got to get some racing. So thank you very much for joining. Make sure you give us a like, give us a share, and we will see you after the next World Cups. Until then, goodbye for now.
See ya.